Our next guest is not only an attorney, but he's a boxer. Michael Minns standing by. Representing a lot of people in a lot of bad situations. Michael, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Sam. Great to be here.
Are you still? I saw in your bio you were what, Golden Gloves or something? Or you're a tough guy?
Well, I haven't been in the ring in over 40 years, Sam.
Let's go right now. Let's go. Now, Michael is an attorney who has taken on the Internal Revenue Service on behalf of clients and in criminal ways. Now, real quick, what makes it that somebody needs an attorney with the IRS? What did they do wrong? What did they do, Michael?
Well, a lot of times they didn't do anything wrong, Sam.
Okay.
They live next door to an IRS agent or something like that. Sometimes they have. But the bottom line is if the special agent, which all they do is try to put people in jail, if they're asking neighbors questions or friends questions or nosing around, you probably need to get a criminal defense attorney. All those guys do is put people in jail, and not as opposed to a revenue agent. So, you know, the case that I just won in Marquette, Michigan last week, client was as innocent as they come. Turned out his taxes were incompetently done by a crook out of Florida, David Simmons, who is selling crooked trust. But had a correct CPA handle the returns. He didn't owe any taxes. So he went on trial for facing 20 years in prison on a case where he didn't owe any taxes.
So, in the United States of America, some bonehead does your taxes. Some guy does, some, crazy accountant does your taxes. They're not right. Why can't the guy just go, your client go, hey, bro, hey, an accountant messed up my taxes. I'll get it taken care of. Talk to you next April. I'm out of here. Peace out.
That's the way it ought to be, but it's not always that way. They get on the hit list, and this guy had a friend. Well, it's quite possible that David Simmons is operating a scam with the permission of the Internal Revenue Service as his partner, and he's turning in all his clients. This was the third time he testified against a client in the state of Michigan. The state of Florida enjoined him, says you can't practice law anymore in Florida because you're not very good at it, and also you're not a lawyer. So they got a court injunction to stop him from practicing law in Florida, but that didn't work in Michigan, so he went off to Michigan, and this guy's all over the country selling crooked trust to people, charging them a fortune. The sad thing is that John Madison, a very successful man, built with his own hands several marinas on Gun Lake and Lake Superior and areas in Michigan. Good, very religious man. Adopted a handicapped child out of Brazil, one of the nicest guys you'd ever meet in your life. The sad thing about it is that because his taxes were incompetently prepared, he wouldn't have owed any taxes anyway. There was a $500,000 credit for his homestead. IRS charged him with that.
Well, let me ask you this. Michael is joining us on the show. Is this like an isolated, one in a billion story? Like, oh, this could never happen anywhere. This is one guy, he's got a loser for an accountant, the accountant screws him over, blah, blah, blah. Is this the kind of thing that can only happen once in a million times?
Well, it can only happen once to a single human being. But
True.
No, if it happened to everybody in the United States all of the time, I guess citizens would rise up. But there was an armed squad that went after them, and it's altogether all too common, more common than it ought to be. They took a SWAT squad to go after a friend of his house, raided him. He was a Vietnam vet. This was one of the witnesses in the trial. Broke down his door at 3 o'clock in the morning, took his wife, who has all sorts of medical problems, handcuffed her, dragged her into the other room, interrogated her away from him. He thought he was being raided by criminals.
Yeah.
He goes into the other room, and he sees his son lying on the floor with M16s to his head, and he goes to get his weapon, and he hears a voice, "Hey, police!" And so he says, "Oh, thank God, the police are here. They're stopping these people." It turns out it's the IRS agents seizing dangerous paperwork. Now, they had a warrant to search. This is his friend who had introduced him to David Simmons. They had a warrant to search the place, and so that was legal to seize these dangerous papers, which they had anyway. David Simmons had already given them to them. The banks had already given them to them. It's really ridiculous use of force. And then they handcuffed him, terrorized him, messed his house up. It happens every day. It happened in Houston, Texas, to a tax preparer in Houston, Texas. I remember going out and watching the raid, and no, there were no charges against him filed.
That's horrible.
That's dropped.
That's horrible. I mean, because they tell me I got 60 seconds. There's such a fear. I guess you get a letter from the Internal Revenue Service, and there's a fear. Should we fear federal agencies that much, Michael, that we should worry about someone kicking in the door with an M16 at night and putting a gun to our heads?
You got to be careful. And the answer is, should we fear? No. We're the home of the proud, the free, and the brave. But the truth of the matter is that it happens. And then the neighbors see them raiding your home, and they say, "Oh my God, we're glad they're here. He must be some dangerous criminal." We didn't realize that this man, who's a member of our church, who's a family member, who's babysat our kids, was a dangerous criminal. But now we know. And then they start to have the presumption of guilt. This man, the friend of David, another client of David Simmons. By the way, if any of your listeners are doing business with David Simmons out of Florida, yes, they need to have some caution, because this guy turns his clients in, cooperates with the IRS, gives secret testimony with them, and they need to be afraid.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
I appreciate you stopping by, Skyping in from your. Are you in office in downtown Houston? Is that where you are?
No, we're out in Sharpstown
Oh,
area.
sure. It's a beautiful wall of books you have, by the way. It's like it could be just a facade. No, it's a wonderful wall of books. Michael Mintz, thanks for stopping by and joining us via Skype on the Sam Malone Show. Really appreciate your insight. Have an outstanding day.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You got it. You got it. Don't you love that?